So it goes to say, like, networking, education, listening to podcasts, and listening to other people, what they're doing. It's always a great education, and you never know when those tips can come handy.
Welcome to the Adriana Ostapenko podcast. I'm here with a good friend as well as business partner, Ali. It's so nice to have you here finally. It was a long time due. I was getting ready and warming the seat for you to join me. So thank you for coming. I met Ali, I feel like, I don't know, a year or so ago.
No, it's a couple of
More
years.
than that, more like 2 years now. Yes, we just met on some real estate networking events. We connected. Ali does development. I was just getting into the development space and had a deal in my hand. So I reached out to Ali and asked him if he'd like to take a look and potentially collaborate on it with me with his development experience. To which he said yes, and I'm thankful for that. And we've been working together on this development project, which we'll dive into it on our podcast here. So it's a pleasure to have you here, Ali. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Adriana. Thanks for having me here. Yeah, I know it's been a long time coming, so it's great to finally do this. And yeah, no, I think it's probably just over 2 years, maybe even more, 2.5 years. But yeah, no, that was a good brief of like how we met, and it's been a great time working with you. And yeah, thanks for having me here.
Amazing. Share with like the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm an engineer by trade. I'm an engineer, mechanical engineer, and I used to work in in the industry in like Asia and in Alberta and all those places. And started investing in real estate about 2016. I started looking at it probably a year or two before that, and yeah, from there kind of got really interested in new builds and developments, and kind of kept the dream alive and kept working on it. And yeah, I scaled from there. So that's kind of in a nutshell. I'm really passionate about sustainability, energy efficiency. I guess a little bit because of my background in engineering, but it's also something that I've always been passionate since school time, working on renewable energy and stuff like that. So that's me in a nutshell.
So I know you've been involved in a number of different development projects up until now. Give us just a little bit of like a glimpse of like roughly how many and what sizes of development do you do?
Yeah, so right now I'm doing like larger projects. Like our project in New Brunswick is a 60 units on top of the 6 units that's existing. And then we just finished the land assembly and rezoning in Calgary. We assembled 4 properties and we rezoned it for a 24-story tower. And now we're turning around and looking at selling the land. So these are the 2 larger projects that I'm working on. There are some in the pipeline that I can't really talk about right now, but those are the big ones.
Then I know you have your building that you purchased that you're adding onto it as well.
That's right. Yeah, so that one is so I'm dabbling into the multifamily value add as well in MLI Select program, and we're gonna briefly touch on that, I guess, with the project we are working on. But this one, yeah, in London, we bought a 9-unit building, and that experience with land development kind of caught my attention with the land size. And then we're like, let's check and see what else we can do with this land, with this property, other than the typical things to renovate it and try to like reposition the property. And we noticed we can add 5 more units based on the zoning. So we're like, what is the best way to do that? And we figured that probably the most economic way to do it is to add another floor on top. It has its own complications, so we're grateful for the team that we're working with. And yeah, that's a blend of multifamily and land development, and that kind of adds to like every like tool that you have in your toolbox can come handy in the deals. And like they say, good deals are found, great deals are created. That's where the creativity and knowledge from maybe different strategies could come handy to make a good deal really great. And our, like, similar to our project in New Brunswick, and you briefly mentioned, yeah, we met at a networking event. We're talking, and like, you tell me what you're doing, I told you what I'm doing. I think the second time we met, you had the deal, and then we looked at it and said, what can we do with it? With a lot of land, small building, that again, like, putting our brains together. Your experience, a lot of experience with multifamily projects and getting into development, and me with land development. That's what made it a great deal. And I guess we'll dive into it a little bit later, but that just to give people a little teaser of that project.
I love it. I so agree with you. Definitely every single thing we learn just gets added on, and it compounds heavily to how much value we bring to the table, to how much expertise, connections, something that I kind of want to do a reel on was the clause that you suggested on our latest acquisition. Purchasing. I hadn't heard of that clause before, but I thought that's cool. That's a really cool. Where did you learn about it?
So remind me again which clause.
Okay, yeah. Let me talk about what it is. Sorry.
So that everybody also knows what we're talking about.
We actually have one of the properties neighboring our land, our development project together came up for sale. The seller had reached out to us wanting to know if we wanted to purchase it. It does add quite a bit of value to our land where it's located. We went back and forth with the seller, and once we went to put an offer in, we had to go into what seemed like it was going to be a bidding war situation. And to ensure that we would be like on top of things, Ali suggested a clause to our contract, which ultimately gave us an option, or we would be able to add on, let's say we were talking about $3,000 to $5,000 on top of the highest offer they received, to make sure we would get that call back from them. And that was interesting. I had never seen that before, and we did implement that, and they did take advantage of it and added the 3,000s. But I wanted to hear from you. Where did you learn that?
Yeah. So yeah, that's one of the things that if you remember in 2021, it was really hard to get anything. And listening to podcasts and just again, like education. And when I'm driving, I'm always listening to like real estate podcasts, different investors, different people. And I can't remember which podcast it was, but I'm pretty sure I heard this strategy in a podcast where you include an escalation clause in your offer in a multi-offer situation. You basically say whatever offer you got will top that 3,000, 5,000, depending on what you're buying. You can put a cap, I guess, because otherwise it can keep going. Or you just basically tell them, hey, like whatever offer you got, we would entertain a counter offer based on the highest offer. And that in this situation came really handy. It's again, one of those things that you hear somewhere and you don't know if you have a use for it. And one day it might become handy. And to your point, this one was really important for us to make sure we get the first tip on this. And I guess the best part is we still have it conditional for a week. So that was the thing that when our broker were talking, I was like, oh, well, this might get too expensive. So we still have a week to decide if we want to keep it or let it go. So it's in land development, a lot of times we say it's about control. You want to get it under contract, then you can take your time. I think it's the same with every other situation as well, like other types of properties, multifamily, single family. If you can get a conditional period, just make sure you get it under contract. But that strategy was something I heard probably 2 years ago when market was really hot in Ontario. And I'd actually never used it myself before. So it was good that it came handy. So it goes to say networking, education, listening to podcasts and listening to other people, what they're doing. It's always a great education, and you never know when those tips can come handy.
Yeah, exactly. You and I both attend a lot of networking events.
Yeah.
We see the value in that community and just being out there talking to people. I guess the other thing about you was I know you have recently left your 9 to 5. I wanted to ask you what brought about the change for you. I know because you and I had been talking about it for a while. What was the final straw there that made you do the leap?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's something that I've been contemplating for a long time. It was actually a dream like years ago that I don't want to, be stuck in a 9 to 5. Not because of the 9 to 5, because of the risks that comes with it. And maybe I'll touch on this for anyone listening and they're, thinking about this. We think that having a 9 to 5 job is a security, but it's really a false sense of security. The first time this sparked in my head was when I was working in Alberta. I had a well-paying job, felt pretty secure, but company went bankrupt. The oil and gas went, got really bad in Alberta in 2015. And one day we all got a call, like they basically closed the branch that we were working in. And so there's nothing you can do about that. You can be the best worker you can be. You can, be the most knowledgeable person, the most productive person on the team. But if the whole ship is sinking, well, nobody's safe. And that was a really big wake-up call for me that, it's just because I'm working hard and doing my best doesn't give me a security. And then the economy was so bad in Alberta at the time that for like 6 or 7 months, there was nothing even being posted to apply for. Let aside, so it didn't matter how good you were, like there were no jobs. So that was a really big wake-up call, and that was really my start of thinking about building a business on the side. But then eventually, slowly, I realized that, okay, no, maybe I want to make this my full-time thing, and started putting the pieces together. And COVID was actually the last trigger. I got laid off again when COVID hit, like many other people. Again, one of those things that you can't control, right? You're doing your work, you're trying your best, something happens that is out of your control, and the company cancels projects, they don't need you anymore. I think a lot of us were in that same boat during COVID, and I know for a lot of people that was the trigger. I did end up getting another job after that, but the shift had already happened in my mind that real estate is my main focus. And I can say that now because I'm not in that job anymore.
You can publicize it.
Yeah, but so the shift happened then. And then after that was really just putting the pieces together. The projects, how do you structure the deals? How do you make sure you're getting paid as well as investors? You're not waiting till the end. So it goes into the structuring. I know we have had a lot of conversations about that, with our community and friends. And that was really the help, the few projects, putting all the pieces together and really plan for it. And the final trigger was just, I was getting too busy with the real estate stuff. And I felt like, the day job was just a distraction. And there were enough pieces in the foundation built that I felt comfortable to pull the plug.
I love it. Congratulations. Very similar reasons that I've been like, Anton got laid off way back now, a long time ago. And it was so shocking that he got laid off, also an engineering company. And then a few months later got rehired for another year and then laid off again. And he was done. He's like, forget this. I'm going to go open my own business. I'm going to do my own thing. And he's been in business ever since because it's just so stressful. People think business ownership is stressful, and it comes with its, amounts of stress. But like you said, you're in the driver's seat. Very different feeling. Yeah. And it was the same for me. I got laid off of it when COVID started, and that's when I doubled down on my growth in real estate and the bigger apartment building. So it does force your hand sometimes, but it's for the best.
But you had I guess kind of provisions for that, if like you had something that you're already in real estate and whatnot. So yeah. I think that's I would say that would be the main takeaway, and that's what I tell a lot of people. Is like, make sure you have something on the side that you control. Even if you love your day job and you're doing great and you're enjoying it, that's great. If you're enjoying your day job, we're not saying like, okay, go quit your job tomorrow, but just have something that in case economy changes, the company goes down, you lose that job for none of your own fault. then you have something that you can fall back on. So that's awesome. Yeah, I guess we're kind of similar situation.
And I agree, like having the foundation there also gives you the confidence because you know what you're going towards once you're out of your job.
Yeah, exactly. It's a safety net that, if, in case you fall, you have a safety net.
Yes. Smart makes it a smoother transition as well. I love that. So I feel like it's a good segue into what a development project looks like as we dive into our project together here. I'll give a little bit of a rundown what the project is, and I'll let you dive in. But we purchased this 6-unit building on 2.5 acres of land in a really good location in St. John, New Brunswick. I'm operating heavily out there, have about 130 units. On the multifamily side, we have a structure there, so I know the area well. And it just looked like a really interesting project to me. It looks like pretty safe because there was already a building on there. I figured if we can get it rented, we can cover the cost while we're figuring out what we can do with it. And being my first development project, bringing in Ali was key for me to be able to have somebody that understood more. Ultimately, him being an engineer is very complementary skill sets to mine because I do not have the same gifts that he does. We have gifts in different areas, although he's all around gifted. So, but we have gone through the process of renovating the existing property and refinancing it. And we technically own the land for free and clear now, which is exciting. And then we're applying to build up to 60 new units on the land. So I'll let you take over from here and dive into details.
Amazing. That was a great overview. Yeah, this has been a really exciting project, and like you said, we bring different skill sets, and this is the power of partnerships, right? So you're great at the operations, at doing like handling the renovations with contractors, and my experience with land development and just looking at different angle. And I remember when you were initially looking at it, you're like, yeah, you see the multifamily side and what you would do with that. You wanted like kind of, a different angle to look at the land. And when I looked at it, I saw something a little bit different that, hey, this is a lot of land and we can do something with it. And we did some preliminary work. And then next step, we engaged consultants to confirm what we thought would be possible. And so basically it's a 6th unit, like you mentioned, on a 2.5 acre land. So that's basically a lot of land. And great location. So we figured that we can probably rezone it or subdivide it. We went through different exit strategies. One of them was just renovating and refinancing the building as is. We made sure what we are paying for is for the building and for what the building can generate. So that was like our main or the basic exit option if there's nothing else we could do with the land. We had some other options that if we can't do the rezoning, we can subdivide the land. So subdivision is basically when we take a piece of land and chop it up into smaller, basically portions of land, and then you can sell those for single family and whatnot. And that wouldn't require rezoning, which basically means you have to go to the city, ask for permit to change the zoning bylaw, which defines what you can do with the land. So we had different iterations of that. We had a concept to put a much bigger apartment building there, and we went to the public. We heard from the public that they are pretty attached to the old house that's there. So we decided to, we always want to respect what the community wants. So we decided to change our plan and kind of settle for a smaller potential development. And again, look at it from a different perspective of renovating the existing. And I think that was about the time when MLI Select program came out, a CMHC program. And then that really helped to look at it even from like the latest angle of like what we can do with this. And that's really where the maximum value came about for us. So for those listening, like we renovated the units, we did energy efficiency upgrades, which was again like something that I've been working on since 2017. And it really came handy when MLI Select program, the CMHC MLI Select program came out, which incentivizes developers and investors to do energy efficiency upgrades. That's one of the streams, and that's what we focus on. There is also accessibility and affordability. So we did the energy efficiency upgrades. Remember, we had discussions about, because it was a little counterintuitive to spend a lot more money without knowing for sure if you're going to get it. But we did our analysis. We talked to people. We reached out to our network, and we figured that this is a risk we want to take. And I guess we're excited to report that it worked out well. And we got almost all of our money back at the refinance, which, like you said, means we have the land for free now. So what we're planning to do is to subdivide the land again, basically chop it up to 3 separate lots, keep the existing house on 1 lot, and then the 2 other lots, that one of them we're going to try to get an approval for a 40-unit apartment building and 20 stacked townhomes. So basically 10 townhomes, 2 unit each. So that's basically the concept, and it's really exciting. It's definitely has been a really exciting project.
So it's been a while that we've been working at this. There's been so many learnings for me as my first development project. I find development is very slow paced in comparison to our usual multifamily business. Since we've been acquiring this property, I already closed on a lot of units on the multifamily side. So it's such an interesting process. Like you put the work in, and then you wait for weeks, sometimes months, and then you may have to change and adapt like we did. We came up with the first plan and got shut down ultimately by the community and their voice. And we needed to go and change our plans. And that's what we did. Came back to the drawing board, came up with a new concept, put it back out there. We took a pause as well as we were renovating, because that was a lot of work to bring that building up to where it is now. But it's just been an interesting, in terms of the risk level as well, you've been really fundamental to show me that it's okay and there is enough on the back end to take some of the risks. Because again, I'm used to buying an existing building and I know exactly what I'm going to do with it when I acquire. This is slightly different. There is a building on the land, which helps me process everything, but technically you could be buying, just land. And to me, there's just so much risk there. And Ali has been so helpful in just understanding what are the processes, what are the benefits, where it's worth spending the money. So I appreciate that. We have a really good team now in New Brunswick. It took us also a while because we're investing, or we're doing this long distance. Ali and I are both in Ontario. This development is in New Brunswick. So we took us a minute to find the right team there that's going to push this project forward. And what made the difference was ultimately adding somebody to our team that was a local representative to us there. And we found the moment we were able to do that, again, just collaborations and masterminding and thinking how we're going to move things forward, we noticed a big difference. So something to keep in mind if you're developing far away, find somebody that's local, that's on your team, that can attend meetings, be there present, but just move things forward and have a local presence in your projects.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely correct. Yeah, the collaboration we did, I think, was really great. You're great at executing the project, and I guess I did a little bit of more back end, like growing the numbers and stuff. And again, that goes to the power of a great partnership where you bring your different skills together, complementary skills, and you make something great happen. So this was a great example, and this is still ongoing. There's still going to be a lot more good news that's going to come out of this project. So for listeners and people watching this, stay tuned. There's going to be more coming, but I think we're probably going to release some lessons learned and share the learnings from the community with the community from this project. Because I think it was a really interesting project. It has its challenges. It was a lot of learning, for both of us, and learning along the way. you mentioned something really important, that having someone local, building a right team, and everybody talks about it, but it's like when you experience it and you see a clear example of but how much difference it makes. And it was interesting. We tried working with the same team when we didn't have someone local, and it wasn't working as well. But now we're working with the same team with someone from our team on boots on the ground, and it's day and night. And so that's that. I think that was a really interesting observation, because it doesn't happen very often that you have like an apple to apple comparison, like the same team. The only wild factor here is having a local rep to basically expedite the project, follow up, and all that stuff. So,
and I think that comes with understanding the market, because St. John is a small town. It's a small city. Everybody knows everybody there. Any players in the industry. Development is just a kind of new to St. John. It's picking up heavily now, but it's fairly new. So anybody doing anything, everybody knows. The fact that we were not from St. John and not local there made a bigger impact than we thought it would. So also, like, it's just always problem solving or solution finding is a different way of saying, like, this is really all we do. We get together and we find solutions to keep moving things forward and accomplishing our goals and targets.
Absolutely. No, you hit on two really important things right there. The solution, that's really, I think, the biggest skill sets that as investors and business owners we have is we're always we're always finding solutions to problems, to issues, because the reality is when you're in business, you're doing a project, there's always going to be things that come up that it's impossible to plan for 100% of things. You can have an overall plan, a roadmap, but there's going to be a lot of things that you need to be able to like quickly think about and find the best solution, make the right call, and that's really important. The other thing that you mentioned was like that probably we were not 100% familiar with the working culture. And so right now I have projects in Ontario, Alberta, and New Brunswick. And it gives me a really interesting perspective of how the working cultures are different. And I've personally, like I've mentioned, I've lived in Alberta, I've lived in Ontario now, and I've worked in both provinces. And I've worked internationally as well, but we're talking like context of Canada. And it's really important to understand the working culture of people. Like, how do they communicate? What is their preferred communication? There are very subtle differences, but I think it's one of the things that is less spoken about when we go like to invest in a different province, invest in a different country. I think it's important to take the time to understand their culture, their working culture, not just like, the culture, like street culture, but work culture. And having, someone local definitely helps a lot, and channeling the communication through them, getting them to help with executing the work. And, sometimes people might think that, I can handle it myself. Why would I pay someone else? But I guess we are the, live proof of like, it makes a big difference.
100%. I love that. I guess we also felt some impacts when it came to the changing markets with our project. So as we know, interest rates have been climbing fast and furious for, a good 12 months now. That impacted the market in so many different ways. And it definitely impacted our project too. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we, the CMHC process it takes time. It takes time. Like the amount of documents you have to provide, it's it's crazy. And so that takes time. And then the CMHC itself takes time. And then the brokers, the lenders, there's so many moving pieces. And something, I guess, unfortunate that happened was from when we got our commitment letter from the lender, which is they tell you, we commit to give you the loan, and this is the rate. and they give you, so in the commercial, for those who are in commercial, they know it, but anyone that's not in commercial, the rates that you get are based on mortgage bonds. So it's like a stock market. It changes every day, every hour. So they give you a spread from the mortgage bond yields. So that number between the time we got our commitment letter and when we were ready to lock our rate in went up about like 100 basis points or 1%, which is a huge number in a mortgage. But so that was a bit of a shock. We would have gotten more than 100% of our initial investment if that didn't happen. But those are some of the things that you can't control. But I think we were lucky, or I guess we were in a good position that we were talking about getting 105% versus 95% of our money back. So it was not the worst problem to have. And I think that was because we kind of built the project strong enough to absorb those shocks. And I think that's the learning point really there, is to make sure there's enough cushion in the numbers that if you have fluctuations in the market, the rates change last minute and whatnot, you can absorb those. So, and I know we had to really think quick, decide. It was kind of stressful. I was checking the market.
I found it very stressful.
Yeah, what's happening? Should we lock? Should we wait? Ultimately, we decided to bite the bullet and lock the rate and pay the buy down. But again, I'm thankful that we were in a position that we were not losing money, but we were basically taking less profits. But it's not a bad problem to have, for sure.
Yeah, it was, it was a big bill to pay. But to your point, we were still able to achieve very, very close to like a perfect situation. So it was worth, being able to pay the fee and get our mortgage in with MHC. So awesome. The other thing that I found that you brought so much value to the project was how closely you worked with the numbers to ensure we had the highest valuation possible. That was admirable because it just takes a lot of detailed and consistent work on your end with that and negotiating with the appraiser, which is something I guess we've done it in the past, but you were just very meticulous about it, which, again, comes to your skill sets. So maybe talk a little bit about that too, and how much impact you can actually have on the valuation of a commercial property.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm really glad I was able to help with that, and, again, complementing the skill sets. But yeah, running the numbers, obviously, as an engineer, we live in, spreadsheets and Excels, and we love the, playing around with numbers. But commercial real estate, it's all about numbers. And that's the beauty of it. It doesn't deal with emotions. Probably the only thing that is out of our control is the interest rates. We pretty much control everything else. And nothing is set in stone. And you mentioned with the appraisers, because it's based on the numbers. So we shouldn't shy away from challenging the appraisers on the numbers they're using and asking them questions on, why they're using a certain number, or if you have extra income from something, if you can prove it, you can send it to them, and they should accept it, because it's numbers. Numbers don't lie. It's it's math. So I think that's something I've heard that from other investors as well, that they got an appraisal, it wasn't what they were expecting, and they just walked away from the deal. And sometimes it's worth digging into the numbers and see what the appraiser has used, and see if there's something that maybe they missed something, or they're humans too, right? They could make a mistake or not consider something, or they don't see it the way you see it. And it's a bit of a communication as well with them to show the value that you've created. I know in the residential side, people talk about finding your own comps and providing that to the appraiser to basically make his or her life easier, but also show them what you're expecting.
Just price.
Yeah. But in commercial, like basically we provide the numbers to them, and a lot of appraisers will accept the numbers we send. And so if we can demonstrate that in a nicely organized way, and so that they can understand the numbers, most of them would be receptive to that.
And there were a couple of like creative items that we added on that made difference in the numbers, right? Do you want to talk about what those are?
Absolutely. So, for the commercial or multi-residential, it's all about numbers. It's all about the net operating income. For those who may be new, that's your gross income from the rents or any other sources, from parking, from laundry, from anything, minus your expenses. So NOI optimization was basically another thing that we did. Again, like putting it in a spreadsheet, playing around with the numbers and see how much a difference it makes in your final value. One of the creative things that we did was to get internet or get a Wi-Fi for the building, because this was an old house that's chopped up to 6 units, so it's almost like a big house. So we got a business internet Wi-Fi, and we shared that with the units. So basically buying wholesale and selling retail. So we ended up, getting that internet and then charging tenants a fee that was lower than what they would have paid if they were to get their own internet. But we basically turned some profit from that as well. The other thing that we did is separated all the utilities. So working with a sub-metering company, separating the water, putting hot water tank for each unit. They pay for the electricity, they pay for the water, so we don't have any utility costs. That's another thing that really helped with that, and that's something I'm actually using in the other projects that we're doing as well, wherever we can. And in new developments, that's basically the way to go. And a lot of new developments, even like larger developments, that's how they do it. So it makes sense in commercial.
That was again like so interesting because it's not a common practice in New Brunswick to have water be like water is usually included in your rent. It's very rare that it's separate. I think our building is the only one that our property management company has like that. But Ali was very insistent that if we do this, we can really impact the valuation of the building, because that's that helps our NOI. So he was determined and again meticulous to go through what the plan is, find the right companies to work with, and really work with them in their own process to make sure we had every single water tank submetered. Now our property management company, we use the water bill, they do the readings of and ultimately the math of how much water has each unit individually spent, and they send them a bill for that. And that did impact, not only helps with our carrying costs month to month, but also helped with the valuation of the building. So really great job there. And so much learnings on my end from some of those items.
Something that's really interesting with separating utilities, it's from the added value to the project is great, but something that is less spoken about is people actually consume less when they're paying for it. And it's actually good for the environment, because now we are reducing waste as well. So it's a benefit to us, and it's a benefit to the greater community and the environment, that people are not going to waste as much water and energy, because now they can see the immediate impact. So it is actually something that is spoken in sustainability environment. It's actually a good practice for people to pay their own bills, because then they can see. Because if we don't see how much we're consuming, we don't know, right? It might be an unconscious thing. I'm not saying like people because they're not paying for it themselves, they're just going to waste, but it's just they don't see the effect. So it's an added benefit to that as well, and that's something that it's important to consider.
I love that. It's so true. And it took, I guess my point partially was there was an added effort to do all of that because it's not a common practice. So there was a lot of people being like, no, that's not something that we do. Like the construction company said no, the property management company said no. I was like, no, it's not really common. And you're like, no, like it makes sense. We're going to go do it. So I appreciate that kind of like mindset, but also the execution of it and like making it happen. So I love it. Like it's a lot of like the solution finding piece.
And one thing I can say to that for people is like, don't shy away from something that seems complicated if it makes sense, because that's where you can really differentiate yourself and your project from other projects. A lot of people complain about projects don't make sense, but sometimes you just have to be a little more creative. And especially today, with the rate environments we are in, construction costs, and everybody's talking about how difficult it is to make numbers work. And more than ever, it's important to be creative with the strategies. And I think this is the time that those who can execute on something that's a little more complicated than typical, then that project can do better than other projects that are just the classic things. I would dare to say, like, a lot of the classic strategies, they're probably not going to work in this environment, at least until interest rates come back to normal.
Even the strategic, because so part of what we're doing with our portfolio is, and especially our smaller residential portfolio, because they're just tighter overall, cash flow, is taking a really close look at it and like going above and beyond to find some solutions. How do I make sure like our mortgage renewed on a triplex that we own and it doubled in payment? So all of a sudden from, a healthy cash flow to zero cash flow and maybe negative. What is the solution here so that we are at least holding on? Funds in it every month, and that just takes like the solution finding, the problem solving, and like smart thinking as investors do to bring it to its highest value. And there's always something else you can do if you just take a moment, talk to other people, look at what our options are, and look what other things you can be doing to make that be the case.
Absolutely love that.
I love that. Okay, this was awesome. I guess I have one final question for you as we're approaching the end of our conversation here. And I have no doubt that once we have had more progress on our development, we'll have you back and discuss what that's looking like. And a huge part of why we do what we do, or like something like this podcast, just really educating and adding value to other investors of our journey and our learnings. If you were to have, let's say, the world's attention for 30 seconds, what would you tell them?
It's my motto in life, been dare to dream. Don't be afraid to dream of something and then work really hard and smart to make that dream come true. And that's what I would say. I would say dare to dream. Don't be afraid to have a dream that seems wild and out of reach. Maybe it's something that nobody around you have done it. Maybe it's something that you've never seen anyone to do it. Don't be afraid to be the first one to dream about it and do it. And sometimes it's something that other people have done it, and we think that, oh, can I do it? And I can assure you, if somebody else has done it, you can do it. So dare to dream and then work hard and smart to make it come true. And I emphasize on the smart part, not just hard, but hard and smart.
I love that. That's really solid advice. Where can people find you? I know you host a monthly group as well. So you want to talk about that, and then where can people find you?
Yeah, so Ali Nazarian on Facebook, EcoLux Developments on Instagram, and I also have a Facebook group called Housing Developers and Builders of Canada, HDBC, and we host monthly meetups where we talk everything land development, home building, and construction and things like that. So if people join the Facebook group, they'll see the link for the monthly meetup. We bring guest speakers that they share the knowledge, and like yourself, I love to share the knowledge, the learnings with people. We're all abundance mindset, I know you do a lot of great work, educating, sharing your knowledge, sharing your energy, your positive thoughts with people. So really appreciate that. And again, thanks for having me here. You're an inspiration to myself and a lot of other people. So keep up with the good work. And I'm really excited, for the rest of our project and to be back here and report on, more of the learnings.
Me too. Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming. And feel free to subscribe, share this podcast, listen to the other ones too for, just really great tips on real estate investing, business, but overall creating a lifestyle by design. Thanks, Ali. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.